Enjoying the show? Enjoying the show?
Yo, what is good, everyone? This is some guy on the internet who doesn't care about his username, and today I'm going to be showcasing Vegas from the project True Vegas and Lone 6. The thumbnail of this video is actually not clickbait. In fact, it's reverse clickbait because the expanded area is over 30 times larger than the vanilla strip. This is even further accentuated in the feeling of it when you consider that vanilla New Vegas, you could literally just explore one road. This adds countless roads and it makes the strip its full scale. Now, the ratio is not exactly 1-to-1, but it's proportional. It feels like the full strip. And none of it is set dressing. It is all explorable. I would say it's anywhere from 30 times to 50 times larger, but I just couldn't be putting that in the thumbnail because yeah, I'd just be doing too much. The thumbnail of this video actually does a disservice to the sheer difference in size. If we show the actual difference, it looks like this. Not only have I done this, but I have also made Freeside 10 times larger. I actually have a video showcasing Freeside similar to this. I'm going to share the preview here right now. I have done edits to various locations throughout the parent world space, and in particular the Vegas Valley area. I have done a creative conjuration similar to Fallout 3's DC. Where the full scale strip is believable. I'm not going to get into that at this moment, but later in the video I will.
You recording, Eddie? Good. Make sure to stay upper body only. One of those dust-filleted bastards stole my jacket and pants last night. Not funny. Don't make me strip you of your memory again and put you back in that pod. I'll leave the courier's bitch ass to find you again. Just be sure to cut this part out of the final draft. You know I got an ore farm and talk all slow and shit. Alright, we're starting in 3, 2. First thing first, you can stay home, courier. The divide will remain. The road will remain. History will remain.
You ain't gonna do shit, little paper boy.
For the audience of this broadcast, be sure to interact with the post. And don't forget to hype the video. That will help other modders see this video. And if you choose not to, I will launch you into the far beyond.
So now we're going to get into the project context and keynotes section of the video. This is going to help frame the project before we get into the full showcase.
I'll be utilizing AI to voice this upcoming section. I've already spent an unreasonable amount of time on this video, time I'd much rather be allocating into the mod itself or other real-life priorities. With my medical condition, recording and editing this section would take like 3 times as long, so this approach simply works much better. A quick reminder that you can increase this video's playback speed during this section if you'd like to get through it more quickly. Also, in the description below, there is a link titled Project Context and Keynote Script that will take you directly to the script if you prefer reading it instead, as it is the quicker option. For this part of the video, the project context and design philosophy will be broken into 2 versions. First, I'm giving a more concise rundown from a strip-centric perspective. This is the short version of the overview. After that, I'll give a deeper rundown that will be a bit longer. This is the comprehensive version of this overview. It goes over a more general overview of the entire project, but it is still somewhat strip-centric in its approach. You only need to watch the short version to understand the basic idea. But the comprehensive version goes into a lot more detail that dedicated Fallout fans may enjoy. With that out of the way, let's get into the project context and keynotes. Short overview. What True Vegas is trying to achieve with the strip. True Vegas is not just a city overhaul. It is not a collection of buildings for the sake of aesthetics. And it is not me simply making things bigger for the sake of making them bigger. The goal for Vegas in this project is to solve what I consider one of Fallout New Vegas's biggest weaknesses. In the lore, Vegas is described as one of the most important cities in the wasteland. It is the reason the NCR came east. It is the reason Caesar crossed the Colorado. It is the city Mr. House spent decades preparing before the war. It is supposed to be the jewel of the wasteland. Yet when you actually arrive there in-game, it does not feel like it. The city feels small, even on a representative scale. It does not visually carry the importance the lore gives it. And it never truly feels like the economic, political, and technological center the story describes, especially in a retro future setting. So the question I asked myself was simple. What would Vegas actually look like if the world building matched the narrative? That question was half of the inspiration that became the foundation for this project. Everything in True Vegas follows 2 core design pillars: spectacle and logistics. Spectacle especially matters for Vegas. This is not just any city. This is the city of Mr. House, the series' major technologist who spent decades before the war doomsday prepping it. This is the city every major faction wants, the city that survived the apocalypse better than almost anywhere else. It should inspire awe. But spectacle alone is not enough. The second pillar is logistics. How does the city feed itself? How does it house people? How does it handle transportation? How does it handle security? How about industry, waste, trade, growth? Most games ignore these questions. I wanted to answer them, so every addition to this project exists because it serves a purpose. The goal is not simply to make Vegas larger. The goal is to make Vegas believable, to make it feel like a place that could actually function. And beyond that, I wanted to build something larger than a single mod. Again, this mod is not just Vegas. The layouts, infrastructure, and world spaces are being designed as a framework that future mods can build upon. Now let's get into the deeper rundown and the broader context of the project. This part will be somewhat redundant in areas, but it is the more thorough explanation. This comprehensive version goes over the more general overview of the entire project as a whole, but it is still somewhat strip-centric because the video is about the strip. Also, while this project is True Vegas and Lone 6, the video is mostly focused on True Vegas. Lone 6 will be mentioned briefly, but not in depth, because it is further in the future. If you truly want to understand the full scope of the project, check out the design document. Everything upcoming is delivered in point format. These are a lot of things I have wanted to say more uniformly, so now I finally am. Comprehensive overview. One, this is not just a cosmetic overhaul. This is not just a place objects down to make the Mojave and DC look prettier type of mod. At its core, this is a world-building project. The design is thoroughly thought through. As it pertains to locations, some of the thought process includes lore, logistics, thematic intent, gameplay balance, illusion of scale, proportions, how it actually feels in game. This is not mentioning the thought process for other areas such as factions, quests, dialogue, and broader world building. Because of that, I have created a design document that is around 200 pages of direct to the point writing. It overqualifies implementations and lays out most implications to make the vision as clear as possible. The project is also designed with modularity in mind. Many additions, especially on the New Vegas side, are structured so they can be removed, adjusted, replaced, or expanded more easily without breaking the broader experience. The goal of True Vegas is not to treat vanilla New Vegas as untouchable. It is also not to replace New Vegas with something unrecognizable. The goal is to expand what already exists in a way that feels consistent with the game's world, while pushing its scale, logic, and presentation further than the original could. A major part of the design philosophy is that most additions should not be singular in purpose. Most additions are meant to serve multiple purposes at once. Visual purpose, gameplay purpose, world-building purpose, logistical purpose, future modding purpose. So when something is added, the intent is usually not just, "This looks cool." The intent is that it fits into the larger structure of the world and helps multiple parts of the project work together. 2. Core design philosophy. The two major pillars are spectacle and logistics. Spectacle. I want many locations to feel larger than life while still staying believable within Fallout's world. A game world should be fun and interesting, as long as what is shown remains logistically possible within the setting. It does not need to be strictly realistic, and I think this is something most gamers already agree with. There are, however, some Fallout New Vegas fans who are hyper-fixated on realism in a way that does not hold up when applied across the Fallout series as a whole, including Fallout 1. Beyond that, it is also at odds with what a retro future setting typically entails. So I think it is worth explaining why New Vegas, especially Vegas itself, needs spectacle. Fallout New Vegas is often relatively mundane. Because of that, some fans mistake that mundanity for realism, and then mistake that realism for better design. In some cases, vanilla limitations and compromises get treated like virtues simply because New Vegas happened to do things that way. Because of that, some people will likely take issue with this project's goal of adding more spectacle. This is despite Josh Sawyer himself saying they were too strict with the real-world interpretation of the map, and that Vegas was lacking for several reasons. It is also despite the broader acceptance of spectacle in Old World Blues, and especially Lonesome Road. That acceptance, paired with many examples from the original Fallouts, shows that spectacle is not anti-Fallout. The issue is not spectacle itself. The issue is whether the spectacle fits the world. When spectacle is done with consideration, it is what makes games memorable and larger than life. This project seeks to do that with certain locations, and especially with Vegas, which should be one of the most impressive areas in the post-apocalypse. Logistics. Even with spectacle, the world still needs to make sense. Layouts, infrastructure, security, housing, transport, storage, waste, borders, and access points all need internal logic. The goal is a world that is both impressive and believable. Realism matters, but only to the extent that it serves the world, the gameplay, and the atmosphere. Real cities often have awkward zoning, such as in Vegas, where rundown houses can sit right next to major casinos. A game does not need to copy that exactly. That is an example where strict realism can work against thematic intent. The goal is to create an area that feels real enough while still having a strong vibe. Realism can hurt thematic intent if followed too strictly. This project uses realism as a tool, not as the final objective. The project also tries to solve gameplay and technical problems through immersive world building instead of just using invisible walls or arbitrary restrictions. 3. Why Vegas itself needed this treatment. Vanilla Vegas is one of New Vegas's biggest weaknesses. It does not visually match its narrative importance. Vegas is supposed to be one of the most important cities in the wastes. It is the reason the NCR came east. It is the reason Caesar's Legion crossed the Colorado. It is the city Mr. House spent over 2 centuries preparing for. It is supposed to be the jewel of the wasteland. Yet Vanilla Vegas does not visually sell that. The strip is tiny. The city feels small. It does not fully feel like the economic, political, and technological center the story describes. Caesar says Vegas could become his Rome. Caesar already controls major cities like Denver and Phoenix, so Vegas needs to feel genuinely impressive enough to be worth that title. True Vegas aims to make Vegas feel like a city worth fighting over. The size is meant to feel big enough to be believable, without creating too stark of a scale difference compared to the rest of Fallout. The goal is not to make Vegas larger for the sake of it. The goal is to make Vegas feel worthy of the role it plays in Fallout's world. 4. House and Vegas are being taken to their logical conclusion. The strip should feel like a fortified high-tech center. It should feel like the place that could actually reignite high technology. Mr. House is one of the most advanced technologists in the setting. Robco monopolized the tech market, so Vegas should visually reflect that. Since House is based partly on Howard Hughes, his security and planning should feel eccentric, paranoid, advanced, and overbuilt. This makes Vegas feel more like a preserved gem in the wasteland. The point is not to change House into someone else. His direct characterization stays the same. The point is to ask what a Howard Hughes-style technologist with decades of planning would realistically build. If House had decades before the war to doomsday prep Vegas, and then over a century after the war to ponder how to preserve and control it, Vegas should feel far more valuable, advanced, and fortified than it does in vanilla. The city should visually communicate that this is House's project. It should not feel like a few casinos behind a gate. It should feel like the centerpiece of his entire worldview. 5. How the Strip was designed. The Strip is designed to mirror real Vegas development. Freeside represents older Vegas. As you move farther down the Strip, the buildings become larger, more retro-futuristic, and more advanced. The Lucky 38 will be made much taller to match the larger scale of the rebuilt Strip. It is treated as one of the newer designs, so it shares some visual DNA with later Strip architecture. Many casinos are built on large platforms with shops and interiors beneath or around them. This creates room for hundreds of interiors and future modder content. The design is not just modern Vegas copied directly. It is a retro-futurist Vegas with better urban planning. A good, real-world parallel to the level of urban planning would be modern-day China. I mention this mainly to connect back to the point that the design still borders realism, even with the added spectacle. 6. Retro-futurism. New Vegas did a poor job making most locations feel retro-futuristic. RepCon is one of the only base game locations that really captures it. Outside of this, Fallout New Vegas fails dramatically at presenting a retro-future setting. It often feels almost directly like 1950s Vegas, despite Tim Kaine himself stating that Fallout is retro-future, not 1950s. The desert is not an excuse for boring locations, nor should the time limitations of New Vegas's creation be used as an excuse to hand-wave poorly designed locations, at least not for the most important location in the game. The Strip. If Fallout 3's Washington, D.C. had been little more than the White House, the Lincoln Memorial, and the Washington Monument, I don't think people would be nearly as willing to hand-wave those limitations simply because of development constraints. The final product can still be judged even if time limits played a part in why it happened. The goal here is to make Vegas feel like retro-future Vegas, not just a 1950s desert town. Vegas should feel more visually connected to the larger Fallout universe while still keeping the Mojave identity. The goal is to push the retro-future feeling harder while still making it feel like New Vegas. A good reference point for the level of retro-futurism would be somewhere between Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, while maintaining the grit the series was known for before Fallout 4. 7. Defining Vegas's identity. When it comes to Vegas specifically, the inspiration is a mix of modern Las Vegas, retro-futurism, elements of the 1950s, China's urban development, the all roads concept art for New Vegas. Beyond its visual inspiration, Vegas is built around the idea of asking what the series' foremost technologist would create after spending decades preparing for the apocalypse while planning centuries into the future. House knew he couldn't save the world, but he could save Vegas. As a result, the project expands far beyond the Strip, with the surrounding outskirts overhauled into the logistical backbone of a self-sufficient city-state. Now, to briefly break the flow for a moment. Once again, I want to make it clear that this project is not aiming for a one-to-one interpretation of either modern-day Las Vegas or vanilla New Vegas. Within a fictional setting with unique circumstances, I think of Vegas with a much stronger identity adds to the game rather than taking away from it. Many locations in vanilla New Vegas simply lack imagination from a visual design perspective. Josh Sawyer himself has said they were too strict with the real-world interpretation of the map. He has also spoken about the Strip being mismanaged and falling short in several respects. In other interviews, I've also heard him describe Tim Kaine as generally being a more creatively driven designer, whereas he tends to lean more toward history. I think that difference in philosophy bleeds into the design of many locations throughout New Vegas and contributes to it having a comparatively less imaginative game world than it otherwise could have had. If what you're looking for is a much more literal interpretation of 1950s Las Vegas, vanilla New Vegas already exists. This project is intentionally exploring a different direction. With that out of the way, getting back to Vegas itself, Vegas in this project also has a somewhat utopian atmosphere through its frequent use of flora. Modern-day Las Vegas already contains a surprising amount of greenery, and this project expands on that idea. Not necessarily through density, but through how uniformly it is distributed throughout the city. The goal is to create a stronger contrast with the rest of the wasteland and reinforce the feeling that Vegas is a genuine oasis, rather than just another settlement. There are also many alterations to Vegas that one could reasonably imagine someone like House implementing. Things such as highly secured entrances, atmospheric filtration systems, and other forms of large-scale disaster preparation. The goal is for the city itself to reflect the type of long-term planning someone like House would have realistically undertaken. Vegas is designed to feel like a highly secured oasis in the post-apocalypse, a place that actually lives up to the idea that it could reignite humanity's high-tech centers and facilitate future space travel. This is all while keeping in mind something that is not emphasized nearly enough in vanilla New Vegas. The Strip has only been operational for 7 years. That fact will be reflected throughout both the Strip and its expanded districts. Many areas will still show signs of active construction, recent development, and ongoing expansion. Likewise, some areas will intentionally be left relatively sparse in terms of NPCs and content, reflecting the broader circumstances of the world and the city's stage of development. The goal is to better communicate a city that is still in the early stages of its redevelopment, while also leaving room for future independent modders to naturally build upon it. 8. The philosophy of scale. The goal for most locations is not full one-to-one scale. The goal is representative scale. When players walk through a location, their brain should be able to fill in the rest in a way that actually feels legitimate, unlike vanilla New Vegas. Fallout 3 did this well with DC and the Metro system. True Vegas tries to do the same for various locations. Vegas itself is much closer to a one-to-one scale than most areas, but it still has to work as a game space. The world needs to feel large without becoming tedious or breaking the pacing. The goal is to make the player feel like they are moving through a real city, even when the game engine and gameplay pacing require compression. 9. Fallout 3's world design influence. Fallout 3 has one of the best designed game worlds in my view. I especially like the feeling of an ocean of buildings that many areas around DC have. I also like the Metro system. Fallout 3 overall had great spectacle but weaker logistics. New Vegas had stronger logic but weaker spectacle. This project aims to combine both. True Vegas tries to capture some of Fallout 3's density, while still feeling like Vegas. The goal is not to turn Vegas into DC. The goal is to take the sense of scale, density, and layered exploration that Fallout 3 did well, and combine it with New Vegas's stronger writing, faction logic, and world building. 10. Interconnected sewer system and alternate routes. A realistic sewer system is planned across Freeside and Vegas. It will function somewhat like Fallout 3's metro system. This is inspired by how much I liked Fallout 3's world design. The sewer system helps create alternate paths, exploration, and believable infrastructure. Some areas will only be reachable through sewers or alternate routes. This gives the city more depth and makes blocked off or dangerous areas feel intentional rather than arbitrary. It also creates more room for future quests, hidden paths, faction activity, and environmental storytelling. 11. Jetpack-aware design and future movement systems. Locations are designed with jetpacks and other vehicles in mind. Inside House's territory, players flying too high will be shot down by House's satellite systems, which no one, not even Yes Man, can decrypt during the events of Fallout New Vegas. Only House's vertibirds, with the proper encryption, are able to safely fly across the Vegas Valley. This prevents players from simply flying over major walls and breaking the game, but in an immersive way. Some shorter walls can intentionally be flown over and will transition into other cells, rather than ignoring the reality of flight. The world building is designed around it, especially in a location like Vegas, where someone like House would realistically account for that. The same philosophy applies to ground vehicles. Adequate parking and garages are incorporated into the vast majority of locations. It makes sense to account for this technology during world design because it already exists within Fallout's setting. On top of that, modders have done what many thought was impossible and made functioning vehicles a reality in this antiquated game engine. So, to answer a question I receive fairly often, yes, it is a long-term goal to eventually have vehicles in this project. This level of consideration is part of the broader design philosophy of solving gameplay and technical problems through immersive world building. 12. Building a framework for future mods. As one may have inferred from the idea of a complete Vegas and Freeside overhaul, this mod will be incompatible with most existing quest mods without patches. It is important to note again that this project is not just Vegas. It includes the Mojave and eventually Fallout 3 as well. The main point is that this project is not only location overhauls and world building. It is also a massive framework for future concepts. This framework comes with a trade-off. The easiest comparison is Skyrim versus Skyrim Special Edition. Skyrim had the advantage of preserving compatibility with older mods, including many that would never be ported. Skyrim Special Edition, however, became the stronger long-term framework, with a much higher ceiling for what could be built moving forward. True Vegas and Lone 6 follows a similar philosophy. Early compatibility with many quest mods and location overhauls will naturally be limited. Ultimately, patches for popular and actively maintained mods will be made, but many more obscure or abandoned mods naturally will not receive patches. That is simply the trade-off of fundamentally restructuring the world's major locations at this scale. Over time, however, the project creates a much larger foundation for future content than the vanilla world space could ever support. A full-scale strip creates space for massive future content. Freeside being around 10 times the size adds even more potential. And what Lone 6 does to Fallout 3 takes that idea even further. 13. Lone 6 and Fallout 3. Lone 6 is the Fallout 3 side of the project. Fallout 3 is being given a new narrative and improved structure. Fallout 3 and New Vegas took very different approaches, and both have their strengths. New Vegas emphasizes a more interconnected world, with locations, factions, and quests woven together through deliberate design. Fallout 3 relies more on isolated stories and destinations, allowing discovery, random encounters, and self-contained adventures to drive much of the player's experience. That design philosophy is not inherently bad. One of Fallout 3's greatest strengths was how it functioned as a sandbox of self-contained adventures. The issue was more in the implementation, especially the narratives and characters occupying many of those scenarios. The goal with Lone 6 is to preserve Fallout 3's strengths while addressing its shortcomings. There will still be some interconnectivity between locations and quest lines, but the goal is to maintain the conditions that made Fallout 3's exploration and random encounters feel natural and fun. The goal is not to make Fallout 3's main quest as large or interconnected as New Vegas. The goal is to raise Fallout 3's writing and world building closer to New Vegas quality, as well as the project's overall goal of increasing spectacle and logistics. A temporary Lone 6 version will come with True Vegas. Lone 6 will take a while to complete, so this temporary version is here to make the project feel complete with only True Vegas. That temporary version reframes Fallout 3's world into more of a dust-like apocalypse scenario. It features a smaller narrative, an open world built for exploration, a focused questline closer to New Vegas standards, a way to enjoy Fallout 3's sandbox without relying on its original main quest. This setup is for players who otherwise would not play TTW, or who do play it, but largely ignore Fallout 3's quests, because they do not meet the quality and standard they expect from New Vegas. Thus, temporary Lone 6 was created so that upon True Vegas's release, both games' world building and narrative maintain a cohesive level of quality. Fallout 3 requires far more invasive work and will take considerably longer to finish, whereas New Vegas is primarily about expanding and strengthening an already strong foundation. Thus, temporary Lone 6 was conceptualized. Lone 6 is connected to the larger project. For now, however, True Vegas remains the primary focus. 14. Why this project exists. The gaming community is not likely to get the kind of RPG many of us want from studios anytime soon. We should already have games that match or surpass what Fallout New Vegas and Morrowind did well, while also having modern mechanical quality. That has not happened. Fallout New Vegas is one of the few games that reaches my standards enough for me to genuinely enjoy it, but even it is deeply flawed. When you spend years replaying a game and consuming content surrounding it, the gap between what exists and what could exist becomes increasingly obvious. So instead of waiting for a modern successor that may not arrive anytime soon, or may arrive without the strengths that made these games special in the first place, I would rather improve what already exists. That is a large part of why this project exists. The goal is to bring Fallout New Vegas closer to a standard that modern studios should already be reaching over a decade and a half after its release. But the goal extends beyond simply improving New Vegas. The project is also designed to create a stronger foundation for future development, a framework that future modders can build upon, expanding what is possible beyond the limitations of the original games. The modding community has always kept these games alive through iteration, expansion, and even recreation. This project seeks to do the same in a unique way. Using TTW as a foundation, it combines both games under a single creative vision that strengthens their world building, logistics, systems, and overall cohesion, taking the old and building a new foundation with a much higher ceiling for future potential. Within the confines of these dated games, This could become one of the closest things we have to the kind of modern RPG experience many of us feel we should already have. One that analyzes where these games succeeded, where they fell short, and builds upon both. If the project reaches a large enough audience, it also becomes a platform for future projects built on top of that foundation, further expanding what these games are capable of over time. Keynotes. Now that the overall context of the project has been established, we're going to go over the keynotes for this video specifically. The true Vegas and Lone 6 files, found on the Nexus and showcased in this video, are in a pre-alpha state. As such, nothing shown is at its final level of quality, and only a handful of areas have been polished to something close to a full playthrough standard. The level of development varies from area to area. However, the overall layout is now nearly complete, which is by far the most difficult part of a project like this. Spacing buildings, defining road networks, establishing districts, and creating believable perimeters are among the most fundamental and time-consuming aspects of large-scale world design. Many of the assets currently used are placeholders that will eventually be replaced with custom-made assets. At this stage, the priority is establishing the overall layout. Things like unique architecture, custom buildings, and greater environmental diversity come later. The casinos are a good example. At the moment, most of them are assembled from mismatched vanilla assets and the occasional mod asset that fits the aesthetic I'm aiming for. Eventually, they will all receive their own unique designs. I have polished a portion of the strip close to its intended final quality. That section exists to demonstrate the visual standard the rest of the strip is working toward. Much of what you saw at the beginning of this video was from that area. At the moment, the entire strip exists within a single cell. This allows me to design the location as one cohesive space and ensure everything lines up properly from a logistical standpoint. By release, the strip will be divided across numerous cells. During the recording of this video, I have U-grids to load set to 8, effectively allowing assets to load at roughly 3 times the default distance. A fair amount of the assets used in this project are not generated by automatic LOD tools, such as FNV LOD Gen. This means that if I want those assets to be visible from a distance, I either have to manually create custom LOD for them or temporarily increase the U-grid setting. At the current stage of development, my priorities are establishing layouts, expanding the design document, showcasing the project. Because of this, you will occasionally notice assets rendering in front of me throughout the video, even with the higher U-grid setting, and especially whenever it has been returned to its default value. At the end of this video, I'll be reading through the entire Vegas section of the design document to provide additional context behind everything you've seen. The full design document will also be linked in both the description and a pinned comment below. The showcase portion of this video is largely off the cuff because I find that style does a better job of conveying the sheer scale of what has been built than a heavily scripted and hyper-edited presentation. I also have a medical condition that affects my cognition in several ways. 2 of the most significant are severe brain fog and fluctuations in verbal fluency. Because of that, I occasionally struggle to recall words, mispronounce them, or completely lose my train of thought halfway through a sentence. Whenever I felt the quality of my commentary dropped below what I considered acceptable, those portions of the footage were simply muted. The primary purpose of this video is showcasing the location itself. The commentary is secondary. One last thing. What I'm about to say, most people don't need said to them. But for the minority who do, this is for you. If you have criticisms of the project, at a minimum, communicate them in a neutral tone. Mods are fan-made projects created out of passion. They're not products from a studio you're paying for, and they're not deciding the future of the IP. If you have something to say and communicate it like an entitled toddler, the response you get will depend entirely on whether there's substance behind the critique, despite its delivery. If there is genuine substance behind it, you'll get a reply. However, the focus of that reply will likely be more on your lack of social calibration than the criticism itself. Despite that, the criticism will still be addressed because it is at least contributing something to the conversation. If there is no substance underneath it, and your entire critique boils down to "this is stupid" or "bad design," then your comment contributes absolutely nothing to anyone reading through the comments. In that case, you will be banished to the Shadow Realm. Without further ado, let's get into the showcase.
All right. So let's start explaining some things here. So there's gonna be the women are gonna be this cage is gonna obviously be smaller, like to where you can't just walk through. And now Gamora has like women dancing in here. Those are gonna be flame pillars. So a big thing with as I said, is like logistics, right? I care a lot about logistics. I want billboards like everywhere, and there's going to be way more details, but this is going to feel closer to the all roads concept art. So I want it to kind of feel like a retro, future area, and there's going to be, more neon signs. That walkway, those metal things are going to be gone, but that leads to the new monorail system, which I'm going to show you the monorail stops because they're really insane. We'll get to that in a second. So I'm not sure where exactly in the video I'm going to be placing this, and it may just sound out of place because I may not be able to find the perfect spot. But what I wanted to show off here is House's filtration system. I do not believe in the video I'm going to have this within. I'm going to delete all of this. It will be in the file for anyone who's exploring the file, but in the actual video, this is not going to show up. Now, that's largely to make the video just look better overall and get some better screenshots, but it's also because the filtration system is not complete, and these are a ton of individual pieces, so it makes loading not the best. But I want to show off the filtration system. So this is essentially just like 2 blocks of what's to be. This filtration system is going to go completely across the entire skyline of both Vegas and Freeside. Now, this serves a purpose outside of just being cool, and honestly, there are so many of the things in here. If you actually read through the design document, you'll see how nuanced and layered everything is. It's very systemically thought out. So this fits into House and his preparations. The canonical idea behind it is House would have prepared for everything. And so this filtration system was designed to basically, if any of the nukes did drop, that it would get the radiation out of the air. And this would be something that House would think of, because if you don't, and say the world was to completely be, burned in nuclear fire, and this was genuinely the last place left, if radiation killed everybody, that wouldn't be a good thing. So there's, the canon reason there, but the bigger thing really is this serves a mechanical purpose. So the parent world space of Fallout New Vegas, as we all know, is very small. And I wanted to make the full-scale strip feel believable, but there's no way to do that with the parent world space unless you just recreated like the entire map, and I'm not going to do that. So what I came up with is essentially the strip has something akin to the Sierra Madre cloud. It's called the smog. There's a ton of lore behind all this, and I will be going over it in my design document, but essentially as a part of Mr. House's contingency plans in case the strip got invaded or like just various different scenarios went down. There was one where he would release, which this is the final contingency, he would release the smog into the air, and essentially it would make it to where like no one could get inside of Vegas without basically House saying, okay, like ships couldn't or aircraft couldn't get through. And then with the other contingencies, there's only a couple paths to Vegas. But when it comes to, the mechanical stuff, what this does is it covers where the strip would be in the parent world space and makes it to where it's kind of left to the imagination what's behind it. And when it comes to the inside now, when we're getting back to the lore, is this keeps the smog at bay as well. So these devices here on the Trust Network, those are lights, and it's going to be like basically projecting a fake sky. Now that will be here on the strip, but like somewhere like Freeside, you're not going to see that. You're going to get to just see the actual smog. But yeah, this light is going to be circadian lights mimicking, real life, and it's essentially going to just look like a sky like this in here. But the whole idea behind it is it's an optical illusion, and you'll be able to see like some smog like fading through the Trust Network every once in a while. But this here too is going to be a device that oscillates around the box here, and then it also rotates, so it rotates and oscillates. And essentially the whole idea here is, which I don't know if I've showed too much of the city yet, so let me get back to my guy here, because I don't want to spoil too much. But or you know what, we're gonna keep a view like that, and I just spoiled more anyways if we haven't got there yet. But with Mr. House, being a major technologist, and I probably already said this in the video, now Vegas actually looks like that. And it looks like a place that Mr. House would have prepped for, I can't remember how many years he had, but I think it was 50 years off the top of my head. He had 50 years to prepare, so someone of House's wealth, intelligence, and technological prowess, it's not out of the realm of believability in a retro future setting that he would pull something off like this. And again, this stuff is well thought out. None of this is really just to be cool. All of this has, very important purpose in making Fallout New Vegas even better than it already is. And a big part of that is the world design being a lot better, because it's not good. But that's for another video to talk about. So that is his atmospheric filtration system. But Mr. House, there's the keynote section. I'm not sure if I put the second version in the video or the first. We'll see, because I may be less lazy now and redo that keynote section, because it didn't turn out as good as I wanted it, and didn't explain everything I wanted. But it might be the lazy version, so I don't know if what I'm going to say here is going to be redundant or not. But Mr. House is now because he's based off of Howard Hughes in real life, who was like a paranoid type, eccentric millionaire. And so I wanted, not when it comes necessarily to his personality like directly, but his security is a lot more I can't think of the word right now, but it's upscaled. It's more redundant and that of someone who is like paranoid, right? And I also like the idea of Mr. House being, you know, too bougie, kind of like to have them in the hotel, too bougie to have an entire fleet of Securitrons on the ground. So now these walkways, there's going to be Securitrons across them, as is at the gates. And this goes across the entire strip outside of the second section, which the strip is in three sections. The first section, you can consider it the expanded vanilla. The second section is a zone that's cut off and it's like in chaos, and you can't get to it by normal means. You either have to have high-level speech checks, high-level lockpick, or find your way. Similar to which there's going to be intricate sewer systems across all of Freeside and Vegas that interconnect. And then there's also going to be tunnels from like creatures that have burrowed through. And so it's going to be like Fallout 3's Metro, but the sewer system, and like maze-like through all of the areas. So that's another way to get into the second section. And then the third section is going to be an area that is mainly empty, but it is an area that is patrolled by Securitrons, and it's kind of like a place that's somewhat in limbo, and it's getting prepared for after the events of the game, where House or whoever ends up in control. But as of now, it's not really a big player in the game outside of a couple different areas. There is a Paradise Falls mall over there now, because as is late stage capitalism, there's monopolization, so Paradise Falls is out here. And then you'll see there's also this place called Tomorrow's Promise, which is a casino that House controls, which he has made that casino. He's repurposed it into being a museum, like a technology museum. And then there's another place that used to be the, wow, I forgot what it was called. I think it's it's the one that looks like a castle in real life. I forget what it's called. Anyways, that castle is like a medieval castle, but it has been reworked into a Greek-themed castle. And I forget what it's called, but this Greek-themed castle is going to have, it's going to be an area that is funded by all the rich people throughout the wastes. So it's an area where you can buy, like these are big luxury areas, like rooms. And I'm forgetting the words. It's finance bro or economic terms, you could say, but they basically lease out areas. Oh, they're investors that invest into the strip. And it's a lot to talk about. It really is, and it sounds like a lot, but all of this is balanced to still keep in mind that the strip has only been going for 7 years. But yeah, so those three sections now, and this is the expanded vanilla. Which, by the way, this isn't even all of the expanded vanilla. This is well less than half. Honestly, it's not even 1/3 of the expanded vanilla. We're going to get into the expanded areas. So, I'm not going to run through all this area again because I ended up putting basically most of it in the intro. But, yeah. So, also, again, if I'm speaking very, very quickly, you know why. It's because I, don't want to forget my words. So this area is an outdoor cinema, a massive outdoor cinema with a ton of different shops. And as I said in the intro to this video, how none of this is set dressing, how it's all explorable, that was not an over-exaggeration. You can explore anywhere where you see. This here is going to be like the casino. They have casino storage units that are like really wide and not that tall. This is the very rough beginning of it, but there's going to be those for the casinos. To explain where they store all their stuff, because in real life that's a thing. This pathway, this walkway that's connected to the casinos, those lead to the new monorail system, which is going to be really cool. So the lore in this, because it's and as I said in other videos, Fallout New Vegas did a horrible job at making the game feel retro future. Outside of Old World Blues and Lonesome Road, kind of, there was only one location in all of Fallout New Vegas that feels retro, and that is Repcon. Outside of that, this game doesn't feel like that. It feels like the 1950s, and Tim Kaine himself has said that it's not 1950s. It is retro future. So, yeah, Vegas did a bad job at this. It objectively did a horrible job at this, and in general, the locations in Fallout New Vegas are boring. It doesn't have to be boring either, because it's the desert. That's just a very lazy excuse. Now, yes, you can say the excuse of they didn't have a lot of time. That's fair, but in the end of the day, I'm judging the game for what is here. In the end of the day, it doesn't matter why you didn't get a high score on, your college exams. You could have not gotten enough sleep or whatever happened. In the end of the day, that was the deadline and that's what happened. Anyways, so here is what this is going to be like. And there's going to be more support systems, and there's going to be like retro future elevators coming up, and then obviously you're going to be able to go in these buildings, but there's going to be numerous of these stations like this throughout Vegas. And then this is a shared parking lot between this and the tops. So yeah, which I don't know why the load is glitching like that right now, but a part of that, and oh, you can see these other buildings in the distance, which those weigh more, but simply the load stops working after a distance because there's so many assets in this cell. Which again, as I said, not everything's gonna be in one cell. It's gonna be separated. It's gonna be. This is just a pre-alpha. But remember when I said those countless roads? I said that there would be countless roads. I literally meant that. Like, I'm too lazy to go through and count the amount of roads. So there's basically countless. But there's all these cool different like areas that there's gonna be. Something that I really like about what I've done here too is I like there being like more back alleyways to walk through and stuff. So like, for example, this here. I just like that feeling of like walking back behind here with all these buildings and stuff. There's a lot of that in this project. So we're gonna start getting into some juicy lore here. Oh, I've even added gas stations. There are quite a few gas stations throughout this. I was gonna go through here, but we're gonna go through this area here first. So those who have been to Fremont and Vegas in real life know that there's actually a big gap in between Fremont, or in this case Freeside, and the Strip. So I have created that gap and as a part of the lore, so House had 3 contingency plans, and on top of highly fortifying the city, which essentially there's only a couple paths into Vegas now, because there's something called the smog, which is like basically the Sierra Madre cloud, but controlled but not controlled. It's hard to explain, not going to explain it right now. And then there's also death claws that then are in the smog that have transformed into something called the Phagin. And then lastly, House put a bunch of explosives underground, and basically after the war, which this was by accident, but it was like his last contingency plan, but it ended up going off because he didn't get the platinum chip and couldn't control the systems completely like in vanilla, but now with bigger consequences. Anyways, Freeside and Vegas is now essentially an island with only a couple paths to get in, which are these mega tunnels, which you may have seen during the keynote section. So there's only mega tunnels to get in. This is one of the paths from Freeside. This is the only way to get in to the Strip from Freeside, is this path here. And so this road, which I may put it up on the screen, this is it in real life. And yeah, so it's completely fortified for, in canon, miles of fortification. And the big thing I wanted to do here is Vegas should feel like one of the most valuable places in the wasteland. The way it's explained to you in game is that like this is the diamond in the desert, that this is like a place that House put so much effort into. And in game it looks like crap. Which also brings up a side tangent. I've had people tell me that Vegas, the way it was in vanilla, was fine. It wasn't fine. And this is the best way to put it. If Bethesda was to have made this game, and they made Vegas the way they made Vegas, that stuff, it would get flamed so bad. There would be 700 7-hour essays on how garbage Vegas is if Bethesda made it. And I would go as far as to say, like, even though, you know, they had a limited amount of time, Vegas is their biggest mistake. Like it's to an extent where, like, you got to put this in perspective. I, a single modder, have done what I've done here. They could have done better. They could have done better. That's going to be a hot take, but it's really not, because they themselves even said they could have done better. So once people see that, they'll probably agree with what I'm saying, but I would say this even if they didn't say that. I promise you they could have done better. This is one of the really big flaws in their game. Like, I won't say the same thing about Caesar's Legion or whatever, but designing the layout, they could have used the same excuse I'm using, that it's only been 7 years, so that's why most of it's boarded up. And all you have to do is show the construction, show some rubble, I have some of them, the blocking things blocking you off. That's all you got to do. People will get the environmental storytelling. I think most people would prefer that than what we got. And the thing is people love Fallout New Vegas so much, and it is like one of the best games ever, to what people will just accept way more out of it beyond a point of like logic and actually being like objective with their criticism. So these are going to be weapon systems that shoot like lightning, almost like lightning bolts, or they may turn out to be actual turret guns. But yeah, these are like retro future high-tech weaponry that House has. This area here is going to be like a foodery area, So there's going to be an area with a ton of food shops. Like, I think that's where the one billboard for like Rita's Cafe or whatever. I think Rita's Cafe is going to be in here. Now with House's lore, a part of him doomsday prepping Vegas is with his contingencies. He knew that, which now I'm going to have to explain the contingencies a little better. So House made those contingencies in case during, you know, World War III, that he, that if someone was to like invade him on the ground, that essentially he would be able to combat them in any case scenario. So that's a part of the filtration system, is like, what if a nuke does land, which he thought he was going to have the platinum chip, so he could actually like keep the radiation. It's not that the radiation would be completely gone, but that it wouldn't be lethal and that people could survive. Because what if the entire world gets destroyed? You know, this might be the last place ever, so he has to make it like a city-state almost. And so that's what he did, which, by the way, that's why some of this stuff isn't one-to-one for the world, because I'm making this better, but I'm making it better in a way that makes sense, in a way that's like, this is awesome sort of deal. So, like, I think anyone who tries to be an elitist, most people are just going to think you about this. They're going to think either one, you look dumb and haven't really looked into things, or two, you're then kind of being a jerk and just nitpicking a project harder than you do the actual game, which there are already just a couple people who did that. And yeah, I have a video coming up on that too, which, yeah. But anyways, so this is going to be a fruitery, and with the contingencies, basically House realized that there was a chance, which he wasn't going to for sure do it, it was just if he needed to, which he ended up not needing to, which is the ironic, kind of like tragic thing, but him not getting the platinum chip made all of the contingencies go off. And so the death claws got released. He had death claws in tunnels underground. They got released into the outer valley area. The smog got released into the outer valley area. And then the explosives, the subterranean explosives that he put all around Vegas and Freeside to turn it into an island happened. So essentially, it's an isolated island, and then the outskirts are covered in, the outskirts of where the walls end are covered, not only is there a crater around it, but there's smog in the outskirts. And obviously that serves a mechanical purpose. It's not just to be cool or lore or to copy the Sierra Madre. Nope, it's absolutely necessary. Because in the parent world space, you're not going to be able to get to see behind the walls. There's just going to be a bunch of smog, and the only thing that's going to be going through the smog is the Lucky 38. And so with the filtration systems too, which I showed in that one clip, is going to explain why there's no smog in here or whatever. And but for, well, I totally forgot my train of thought, but yeah, so a part of House's planning, which again he had 50 years to plan, was he made mass housing units. So housing units to just house just an absurd amount of people. And he was able to do this because he consolidated wealth and power over Vegas. And there's a lot of lore that I really can't explain right here. But this area is the nicest area. So this is a retro future area that has a glass ceiling over every single building. And then up top of here is a community center. And then down here is going to have like a bunch of trees. And it's just going to look like this retro future, like insanely awesome urban planning. And these buildings are not what they're going to look like. Oh, which I got to show you the, well, you already saw in the video, but this is what the buildings are going to look like. And there's going to be a bunch of trees. And obviously it feels slightly more urban than Vegas, but the whole point is that Mr. House created these. And so they're supposed to feel, this area is supposed to feel more retro. but not to where it like feels like Fallout 4, but it feels between Fallout 3 and Fallout 4. Which that's my goal with the retro feeling, is I want it to feel in between, which this is going to be a really cool water fountain that comes up here and then goes up on this top thing, but I want it to feel in between the level of retro that Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 has. But while keeping the Vegas feeling and also still feeling somewhat gritty. Like in some areas, I've designed things to kind of feel like Fallout 1. Now, I have played Fallout 1, but I haven't beaten it, so I can't say I'm an expert when it comes to the Fallout 1 stuff, and I don't have the time to really deal with Fallout 1. But, and I say deal with Fallout 1 because I don't enjoy playing it physically, but I do want to finish it. But, yeah, so that's one of, there's 3 mass housing districts. This is the most retro one, but then there's another one that's the biggest, which is for like the workforce. And that mass housing unit is ridiculously big, and it feels really badass. Also, by the way, this foodiery place, if you want to look it up in real life, it's inspired from Tampa, Florida. There's a place called Crate. It's Krate. And that's what this is inspired by. So, okay. I think I need to now set my U-grids down to where they are in vanilla, because I am going to showcase... I'm going to showcase the entire area. Alrighty. So... obviously, yeah, you can see with the U-grids not set the way they are, things don't load in nearly as far. Now, a part of that can be fixed by creating custom load that has a longer distance. But, yeah, I'm not going to do that right now, in this current stage of the progress. But that's why I had it the way I had it, so that things wouldn't just load right in front of me. But now we are at a part where that is more okay. This is going to be the test right here. So, oh, that's annoying. Second. I don't want to hear the noise too. I had this muted. I'm gonna have to mute it in a sec. But this is the test. This area, when your U-grid is set to 8, it will crash. At least with NVR on. Let's see. Kind of anxious about this. Another thing too, though, is once you have a save with the higher U-grid level, it kind of messes with how your save works. So, yeah, you don't want to do that on an actual save. But yeah, just like look at the interesting stuff there is to see now in the strip, like, and just you wait. This is literally such a small portion. I need to see if I need to see something right quick. So I'm gonna try to crash the game right now. Because I may have to turn NVR off if it's gonna crash if I go around at 1000x speed. So I'm doing everything I can to crash the game right now. Alrighty, it looks like I can handle it. Alright, but yeah, show you how long this road really is. And that's another thing too. I'm making the strip so that you need to use vehicles or have a sprint mod. It's not that bad with a sprint mod. It doesn't feel that bad with a sprint mod, but I want vehicles to actually be pretty necessary. Oh, and here's a really another important thing to mention. The roads in the final version of this are gonna be actual, like, how they look in real life, like 4 or 6 lane roads. That is a very massive goal of this project, is to do that. And they're going to be custom made ones, and there's going to be street lights and everything. Like, yeah, it's going to be really bad. I was going to say a bad word. I mean, I've said plenty of bad words already, but whatever, I'm not going to. And just think of like the Securitrons posted up here and stuff. But okay, so now I get to go into the exciting part of the mod. Now I'm going to show you guys the full scale of what I've done. And honestly, it's so big, I need to set this up to 2000. Okay. So that is not all of it. As you know, there was this stuff over there. It's just simply it doesn't load in. So this here is going to be a mansion. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that yet. I'm not going to explain things. This is one of the tunnels. I then go and explain stuff. I'm not going to explain stuff deeply yet, but I'm just showing you the sheer scale of what I've done. The amount of time this has took, you can now understand why I said I was... And it does that. Oh! I thought it was... wow, okay. You can understand why I said I was creatively drained. So honestly, outside of the strip itself, there are surrounding districts that I could go into. I'm not going to go into those right now, honestly. But also, a side note, you realize why I said that they could have done better, though, with the strip. I'm just one single dude, and I did this. And mind you, I already have the assets, which these are just placeholders, by the way. But they could have done the same thing. They could have, and they should have. And not even at the scale that I did it, because this is just insane. It would take a long time, and you'd want to fill it up with content and stuff. But, and yeah, no, now we're at a part where the world starts glitching, and so it's going to be a lot less... I'm sorry, but you're going to have to really use your imagination to, like, think of how insane this is, okay? And with NVR, let me see if I can turn NVR off. I guess not. So please use your imagination to like really understand how insane this is. I'm probably going to show you in the GEC, but this is the second section of the strip, by the way. So once you get past which they started building this in real life. Just so you know, I was building this before they did this in real life. This is going to be for the racetrack in Vegas. They just started building this like a year ago. I started building this before they built this. But because how Vegas has been up to this point is they had to cut off the roads for the racing. I forget what the racing is called. But this now has like permanent racing, which I made it like this because I wanted, like they said even, I wanted more verticality, right? So you're going to be able to walk around this, and this is going to go through the map. Now I'm getting sidetracked. Going to go through the map, and it's going to go through the Eiffel Tower, which there's also like concession stands, such like kind of like places where people would stay too, and then those like structures that like make it to where it's gonna make sense, but it's gonna span across the entire second section of the strip only. And it's even gonna go through the Eiffel Tower here, which, yeah, Eiffel Tower glitching out obviously, but yeah, and those lore behind the Eiffel Tower, which I'm gonna spoil this. Let's just say the second section of the strip is in chaos because House had a plan to take control of it. He took control of the first and the third section, but before his plan could finish, Elijah, chased by the circle of still, ended up in this location, and a ton of crazy stuff went down to where only Elijah and Christine were left. So I've added some interesting background lore to stuff, and the way everything is implemented is like, it's very loyal to what Fallout New Vegas is, but in a way that makes it better, like in some ways a lot better. This is Pirate Island, which this is going to be like a little water area and stuff. This is, I forget what it's called, but this is like a big center. I forget what it's called, but okay, you know what, we're gonna stick to the strip for now. But yeah, no, this is so massive that yeah, it's the full scale strip, like I said. But yeah, you have to use imagination here, because you're not really going to be able to tell truly what this is until the full scale, until I have it in numerous cells, which is going to happen soon. I'll have it in numerous cells. But another thing too, right, is remember how I said the casinos are on platforms, right? This is to add a lot of buildings to explore. So you have like buildings, and then you have the platforms over them. And some of these are placeholders, and again, a lot of these are placeholders, but you can see what I mean. Like, you're going to be down here, and on the platforms, you have all these casinos around you that you're looking up at. And then, like, there's even, like, parking here, like, tons of parking and stuff. And then there's this, which is 3D and up there. And imagine all this when you can see the distant buildings. And so you see, like, in the distance, all the different tall buildings and stuff. Yeah, this is... I'm gonna have to show you in the GEC what it looks like, because the issue with the GEC, though, is you don't get to really understand the scale of what's going on. But the hardest part of creating things is done, which is the layout. Do you have any clue how hard it is? Or I shouldn't say this. How I mean to say this is, how hard it is to, like, space things to where they're not too far or they're not too close to where it feels stupid. And the thing is, right, is like, I'm obviously making this higher scale than vanilla, but I can't make it too big. This is a baseball stadium, by the way. I can't make it too big to where then it feels like it's from a totally different universe. So, like, I had to be really careful. And it's hard to tell from, like, what I'm doing here if it feels like it still fits in Fallout, but it does. This is the MGM. This is gonna be the pyramid place. I think it's called the Luxor. This is Tomorrow's Promise. It has Mr. House's favorite little guy. Or little guy, big guy. And it's gonna have some type of thing like this that looks futury up there. It's gonna look cool. And then this is the Greek-styled casino that was built off of the castle one in real life. I forget what it's called at the moment. Whoa, what's gonna be really cool about this though too, and I don't know how, I'm gonna rework this quest, because in Fallout 3 the way I'm changing the lore, humans are actually a minority in Fallout 3, so it's gonna mainly, there's gonna be like mainly ghouls living there. So I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but with the whole 10 penny tower situation, how in vanilla that they disappear after the end of the quest, or Mr. Burt does. I think Tenpenny does too, I can't remember. But when they disappear, when Tenpenny says, or when Mr. Burke says he has business, where you're gonna find him is in here. He owns a place in here. So after the fact of you doing that Fallout 3 quest, which is gonna be different in some ways, but I'm gonna make sure that that stays, just as like a cool homage to like Fallout 3. Like, I would always wonder where Mr. Burke went. Like, I always just found that so fascinating back then. Like, where did he go? Okay. This is one of the mass housing places. Honestly, this is kind of hard to see, but these are going to be indoor stadiums, and this is a college. This is a college here, which I wanted to give Vegas like and it's interconnected, and then there's also a massive library. And the whole idea here is Mr. House made like one of the best facilities in preparation for like the world ending. So this has basically just like all of the knowledge from the pre-war world. And oh, something that I gotta talk about right quick is Mr. House, and this is how far I've thought about things, but no, I didn't think this deep. Mr. House has two areas. One's called Graceland, and then the other is this neighborhood that he had secured that his brother lived in pre-war. These two areas, the neighborhood for his brother is now a place where House sponsors the most intelligent kids from the Waste to live there and be educated. And he's educating them for the future class, for the future I can't think of the word right now. The leaders, the ruling class. They're the ruling class. And then Graceland is going to be the workers. So he is thinking far ahead, which someone like Mr. House would do. He's thinking far ahead and planning for the future generations.
Have you ever had a dream that you want him to do you so much you could do anything?
So he has those different places that take in kids. And there's also a mechanical reason behind this, or a tonal reason in game, and that's I don't want a bunch of kids everywhere. So now in the Fallout universe, because this is convenient to have kids, because there would be a lot of kids, like I answered a lot of questions throughout what I've done. One of the question is, where the F are all the kids? So I've made Fallout 3's explanation make sense, and then in Vegas there's on the Strip they have a rule. But anyways, there's a ban on kids, so you can travel to places, but it's a ban on kids just being around the Strip. They have to stay at Circus Circus. So Circus Circus is going to basically kind of be cut off, and it's just going to be filled with children. And it's a highly secured place within the Strip itself. And yeah, that's a part of making the world feel good, but like making the game still feel good. Like, you want kids to be in there, but if you put kids in, it messes with the tone of Fallout. So the compromise is, hey, there's certain locations, and in a post-apocalypse, we want to protect children even more, so we have these isolated areas where kids get to go, like Graceland or the one other community. And then also, there is this location called the Spire, and it also has a safe haven in it. where all across the waste, and this explains for the entire Fallout universe, which if you read my design document, this is why I can really say I've gone deeper than the actual creators of these games have gone. That includes Fallout 1 and New Vegas. So the Spire is a building, which you get to learn later on how it came to be. But it is this massive building that does two things. Number one, it's a safe haven for children. Anywhere across the waste, there is a radio station that offers to take in your children and protect them up to an adulthood. Well, the Spire has these helicopters that get sent out anywhere and can pick up children, which explains why, like, raiders don't have a bunch of little raider children running around, because they don't give a crap about their children, so they just call the radio station and that station comes and picks up the children, right? So you have that across the entire wasteland. And what they also do is they're one of the only places in the wasteland, which it's a mystery. If you read my design document, you get to know the mystery behind it. But they are able to create pre-war goods, and they airdrop pre-war goods randomly across the entire wasteland. So now there is an explanation, and I can't explain to you how big of a deal and how no one's thought of this. This gets hand-waved because it's a video game and they don't really care. And this is from a game, supposedly a series that is so, like, logistically sound and immersive, which, again, I'm going to have a video that talks about how it's not as impressive as people think it is. But anyways, so essentially they airdrop these items all across the world. And there's an explanation behind how this happens. And there's going to be some people that are saying, like I've already had a really stupid comment, which I'm gonna highlight in another video and, like, laugh at, honestly, that said I was doing too much to the universe, that we already have a good universe in Fallout, and that I should just focus on the city itself. And this person obviously could not see the vision, and most people can. Most people who have read it have been like, wow, this design document is crazy. Yeah, long story short, you can either have a bunch of pre-war items and there's no explanation for why they are there, and if you do have an explanation, it's going to be, well, there's these factories. It doesn't make sense, and it's just hand-waved because, oh, it's a video game, it's not that big of a deal. My explanation is a very good, what do they call it? It's a MacGuffin. It's a good MacGuffin for why there's all this stuff. And it's not just a Fallout 3 problem, it's a Fallout New Vegas problem too. There shouldn't be these items in the amount that they are this far after the war. It shouldn't happen, it doesn't make sense, so now you have an explanation. And the explanation is a good one, but I'm not going to say it right now at the moment because, well, I kind of did, but the history behind the Spire in Safe Haven, it's a lot to get into. So I'm not going to get into how it came to be. Also, this Vegas sign is going to be at the end of the strip now, because that's where it's supposed to be. But I now want to show you this other area as if we were here. So let's go back to regular speed. And let's change the time here. Okay. So as you can see here, though, how cool everything's gonna be. Oh, I've also even thought of balance with the factions, right? So Mr. House runs the bank. The Ultra Lux, they run this. Or the White Glove Society, which this is a zoo. They run the zoo. The Mint, during this game, unless a modder does something with it, but again, balance. I'm keeping the balance of the factions. This is under construction. This is a storage unit. And then this is something you guys are really gonna like. So the tops. Where the hell are all the tops women? They don't have any women. The chairman. The tops, or the chairman, they now have chairwomen. They're the ones who run Circus because of kids and stuff. So how do I say this? There's not really sexism outside of Caesar's Legion in Fallout New Vegas, but just because, like, these are the men, the chairman is very much like, we're these men and we're suave, and then also the omertas, I kind of low-key think they would be sexist just by how they are. Right? There is a division of labor between gender roles, if you want to say. So the woman runs Circus with all the children. So now you get to see the woman, the chairwoman, which that sounds stupid, but whatever. The chairwoman, and then the omertas, they run something you're about to see here. Also, see how all of this is? When I went over there, imagine how this feels, but with that going all the way down everything I showed. This is gonna feel like an absolutely massive thing. And that reminds me of a point that I want to say in a second. But anyway, so the Super Duper Mart here, this is a Super Duper Duper Mart. And it's going to be a place where you can buy vehicles from, because you're going to get to drive up here, and there's going to be a garage up here, and then in the back, kind of like how Walmart has in the back, they have a auto place. But in those two places, you're going to be able to buy cars from in here, when we eventually can get vehicles into this project. I'm building the worlds for vehicles, but obviously there's going to be a lot of... Hopefully I can get vehicles from other mods into this, because, yeah. Anyways, so the woman of the omertas run this. And now Mr. House still has a presence in here, because like that would just be too much power for them to run this on their own. But they are the one who operates it, and the whole, it's going to feel 1950s. Like, you're going to have them in their little 1950s dresses with their little hair with the curlers in it and shit, and it's going to feel like you're stepping into, you know, the retro future 1950s when you go in that shop. It's going to be a really surreal vibe. What else was I going to say? Oh, so going back to some people not seeing the vision of this project, I've had some people leave comments, which this comment in particular wasn't rude, so I'm not roasting this at all, but not roasting it in like a mean way or anything. I had someone comment to me and basically say how, like, what I'm doing here, when it gets released, it will kind of fall flat. So like, it'll get released, but like not a lot of people are gonna download this mod. And the person was saying this because what I'm doing here, it's going to be incompatible with almost every single quest mod. And I said that earlier, I think, but it's going to be incompatible. Now, popular mods will get patched. People will patch the popular mods, but it'll be a while for a lot of the mods. And so this person was saying that, and I don't know how deeply they researched into the project, which it seemed like they did somewhat decently, but that's the thing, though. Even back then, which wasn't that long ago, there was still plenty of content out there to see really what I was doing here. But they basically said this would fall flat. So my question for you, and if you made it to this video, to this far, leave a comment and tell me. Would you pick what I have done to Freeside, to Vegas, to Fallout 3, to all these different locations, which you haven't even seen Fallout 3 yet. That video is coming out in the future. Would you pick what I have done over old a quest from the past, where it'll take a while for them to get patched. Would you prefer a full-scale strip and all the other edits I've done in the scope of what this project is? Or would you just want to stick with vanilla? What would be your opinion? And I say this because I really don't believe this project will fall flat. And that's also because if things really do happen the way that I'm pushing for them to happen, this will get a lot of exposure. Or could, I don't like to ever say will, but could get a lot of exposure. And yeah, what this is doing is insane, but I'm not trying to poison the well here. It's kind of hard not to, but I'm not trying to poison the well. I'm just curious. Would you prefer the old mods or this? And mind you, you can also do both, right? With mod organizer, you can... Wow, that's annoying. With mod organizer, you can have different load orders, right? So you could still have a load order for like vanilla where you test out, you know, quest mods, and have like your more compatibility build, like, hey, this is compatible with more, and then have this. But what I'm doing with this project is I'm really trying to bring Fallout up to 2026, or going forward into the 2020s and 2030s. That's what I'm trying to do, because like I said, I don't enjoy other games really. So gotta make the game I enjoy better. And it's very doable to do this. It just takes the right vision, and it's gonna take the right team. And I can tell you right now, I have the talent when it comes to the creative direction and the lead. I can do that very well. And my specialty isn't even designing locations. Now, I know I've designed locations better than most mod projects you'll see for Fallout New Vegas. I can't say that for like Skyrim or something. I don't really keep track of that, but I've seen some things, at least from my memory before I created mods, that I was kind of like, what the heck on. But I'm not even that talented in the design portion. Where I'm actually really talented is in the creativity. Like I can tell you, like, that's the creative lead stuff, the vision. I don't have the words I'm looking for right now. That's where my actual talent is. So, and that is the core of what really matters in creating anything, right? That's why Fallout 3 falls flat despite having one of the best designed worlds in gaming. That may give some flack from some people, but I have a video coming up on that too, where I'm going to explain why Fallout 3 has one of the best designed worlds that I personally have played. And I would say probably in general too. But, anyways. So, yeah, as you can see, a lot of different areas here that we got going on. I kind of completely lost my train of thought, but okay. That's going to be really annoying in the background. Hopefully it doesn't come near me again. Oh, also how insane the monorail system in the lore, House made it like, so, basically think about China, how like, they have rail that goes everywhere. Well, yeah, that's what House did here. So you're just gonna see like the monorail just going across everywhere, and it's gonna be really cool and atmospheric. And this is why, again, why I say spectacle over realism. If you want, you know, your realistic vanilla turd vibe, go ahead. But for me, I care about spectacle. I'm playing a video game here. I'm playing a video game. I want it to feel like I want to just be awestruck when I go through it. So, and you got to think too, Fallout New Vegas, its weakest point is how it's designed. how the locations are designed. If you design the locations better and like do things like okay, so my two biggest issues I had with that inspired me to do what I've done here was literally the Strip and Caesar's Legion. Those were the two biggest gripes I had, and it started from there. If you fix those two things, this game is like one of the it's undoubtable. Like, I really wouldn't even say there's a game close to it. And that's being somewhat hyperbolic, but not really. So, honestly, for me, I'm working on this mod, and I want to create something that... That's not how I want to say this. What I want to say here is that I really don't think that we need a remake. Like, we have NVR, which adds shaders to this game. We have people who have done all kind of animations. We have people who have done weapon mods. Now what I'm doing is fixing stuff in the locations, the story, and some of the lore. And then the last thing that we'll need is we need somebody to make a body slider tool. That or a body morph tool. Once we have those things, then we basically have a remake. Which I know for a fact you can do the body morph. There already is a tool, but there needs to be a tool compatible with KNBSE. And then what you have to do is have it like dispersed to NPCs and like randomized, but like in some scenarios not randomized, like the fiends are skinnier or something. And that tool, the morph tool, would essentially, every time you enter the game, the morphs go off, and so people morph like automatically. Once you had all those things, we really don't need a remake. We really don't. And then also too, someone made me aware that apparently the Open Morrowind team, what they have done with Open Morrowind, which is like with Open Morrowind, they'll essentially be able to, if they wanted to, they can make it to where you can load Fallout New Vegas. It's 32, it's typically 32-bit, but you could load Fallout New Vegas into Morrowind's game engine. And once you do that, one second here before I go through that. Once you do that, you'll be able to have Fallout New Vegas in 64-bit. And then you could essentially like make the wasteland its actual size. Like, you could make the desert its real size. You could make the strip like, okay, I would still want some gates because I want like my sections, but you could make it to where like for example, I've added something in the lore here where House has a satellite system to where if you fly a certain height in the sky without a encryption code, which only House has, and even Yes Man isn't able to crack it, so you can only fly so high. So like these walls, which you can't fly over these walls. I've designed every location with jetpacks in mind. So in the strip, if you fly too high, the satellite shoots you down. And then other areas where you can fly over the walls, like say they're not as tall, there's gonna be a bunch of markers in the GEC to where you get phased over. Like the screen is gonna go blurry for a sec, and then it unblurs and you're in the next cell. So I basically wanted to as immersively keep flying. But the reason I bring that up is if you have a 64-bit system, you'll basically be able to load like basically the entire strip into one cell and not have an issue with it. So then you wouldn't have to do something like that. Then you could just travel. Then you could just fly around and you wouldn't watch like the world load in front of your face. So that's something they could do, but it would take a very long time and they would need inspiration to do it. So me creating this mod, it could inspire them to do that. But that's not the only thing that I wanted to say too. I wanted to finish the point that, yeah, this will essentially be a remake. And we, like, with everything that is possible, we really won't need the Fallout New Vegas remake. Okay, that's starting to annoy me a lot. What is that? NCR trooper. Let's disable that. Thank you. Okay. But yeah, just think about all the distance stuff and like the casinos and stuff that you're gonna see. This is another storage unit for yeah, for the casinos. This is a MacGuffin, so there's now an underground water filtration facility from a reservoir, from a massive reservoir on the strip. And there's good reason behind why I have that, because Mr. House would not rely on Lake Mead and pipes that have to span miles and miles to get to Vegas. That is logistically really dumb. The YouTube channel, maybe in the future I might make more slop content, but like, I can tell you right now, some of the videos I'm gonna be making soon, production wise they're not gonna be good, but I'm gonna be dropping some gems when it comes to like the meat of what it is, which is like making you think about things. I can tell you I'm gonna be dropping some crazy videos, so that's gonna be fun. You know, I basically did this because I'm a very motivated person, and when I had my medical condition at like the peak of how bad it was, this was basically all I could do. So, which I will have a video about that too someday. Okay, so let's talk about this right quick. So this is going to be like, and there's going to be a lot of them. This is a what's it called? Wow, a car wash. It's gonna be retro future, and this tool is like lifts it up, and then these are these guys who come and clean it, or they like do the deep clean. But this is gonna be an actual car wash. So like I've thought of a lot of logistics here. Oh, also too, like I said with the roads. The roads are going to be actual roads, but on top of that, you're going to also have like cars driving through, and you'll get to see them parking in the parking spaces, and then you're going to have buses and taxis running routes and stuff. Also too, you can see sometimes I would copy paste certain things and then like change the buildings later, so I meant to delete that, but yeah, so some of the things it's easier to do that than to place down every block on your own. But okay, so oh, this is gonna be like a bar type of ordeal slash kind of shop area. This is obviously the NCR's building, I forget what it's called. Okay, so I'm gonna show a really big lore piece right here. First, I want to show you this building though. For some reason, I've done a lot of cool buildings, but I just really like what I've done with this building here. I just like it. I also like this building over here. I like this building too. Okay, so now I need to get to some more here. So I have explained out the lore behind Super Duper Mart. So it was created by this guy called Sterling, and he monopolized the food industry, and he was a huge part of Mr. House being able to create Vegas. So Mr. House had to get other rich people to like come together. So like there's a lot of stuff that he did. Mr. House, once he realized that like nuclear war was gonna happen, so like before then he had the prediction. Anyway, so before he got the prediction, he was gaining his wealth like pretty neutrally. Like he wasn't a good guy, but he wasn't a bad guy per se. Like at least when it comes to capitalism, because obviously, not to get too into politics, right? Yeah, in real life, I would not side with Mr. House at all. I would not. I would go independent. So, without getting too deep into politics, you can kind of tell. I don't vibe with that. So, by a capitalist standards, Mr. House was pretty neutral to his rise to fame. A lot of it was due to him truly being intelligent and not just being completely evil. Now that doesn't mean he is a good guy. It's kind of one of those things where you can interpret it how you want to, and it's intentionally written that way. But he stays in character. The way I've written him, it feels just like vanilla. Anyways, so once he found out about the war, he started doing bad stuff. Because the reason is the way he viewed it was he's trying to save. He knew he couldn't save the world. So he's trying to save Vegas. So basically from there, he started doing a ton of unethical stuff. And some of which was like basically he lobbied the government and started buying out tons of areas through proxy shell companies and stuff. And he did a bunch of stuff in legislation, which I have a hard time saying that because of my condition. Legislation. He did a bunch of stuff with that to where he basically cut like social funding and doing a bunch of just horrible stuff that these people do in real life, and got a ton of money to start creating this stuff. He also then was trying to convince a lot of people didn't agree with his projections until it was already too late to prepare. But he did convince some investors and rich people, and one of them was Sterling, which is the guy who runs the who controls Super Duper Mart. Sterling was like a really bad guy, but Sterling made his own mansion, which is like a fortified area within a fortified area. Now that's not supposed to be there, but this mansion is gonna be massive. This is obviously just a placeholder, and these things, don't ignore those, but it's gonna be massive. So Sterling has a secured area within an area, and this area has been locked, and even Mr. House hasn't gone in there since before the war. Because when the bombs ended up dropping and the radiation came into the valley, Sterling and all the people that were in here got irradiated, and a lot of them turned into ghouls. Now, This mansion here is created for a very important purpose. This isn't just to be cool, but I can almost guarantee that unless you watched my first video I ever posted, you probably haven't heard this anywhere else. So this is such a glaring thing for me that even when I was a kid, I had an issue with this. And the mansion fixes this in a very creative way. And let me explain. So when you're having the conversation with Mr. House about returning the platinum chip, and if you decide to barter with him, and at first he's like, like, give me the chip or whatever, I can't remember what he says. Maybe I'll put the clip here. And then you escalate a little further. And then eventually, I think it's either the second time or third time of escalating, he freaks out and says how, like, the platinum chip, all this stuff. Like, he flips out, basically, right? While the flip out is completely warranted, what isn't warranted is the price. He has spent over 100 years, he spent probably hundreds, if not millions of caps trying to find the platinum chip. Him trying to bargain with you is, like, so unimmersive to me. Now, I get it from a gameplay perspective. You don't want to give the courier, which I don't even think it was 5,000 chips. I think it was 500 chips, which makes it even worse. You don't want to give the player character too much money because then it will break the economy of the game. Like, even if you make the speech check 90, it still breaks the game. And so they had to keep it low, but that's so unimmersive. But there's other ways to show that the platinum chip is valuable. And some of you who may be picking up where I'm coming from here. But essentially now, when you escalate to a certain point, which, mind you, Mr. House is a businessman, so he does not offer this. You have to get it out of it. When you ask for the money hikes, there's going to be a couple money hikes, and then eventually he will say that he refuses to give you any more caps, but he will offer you this mansion. So then you get access to this mansion, and Mr. House, there'll be a quest with Mr. House, and you can convince him further to give Securitrons to you to come through and clear out the area. Now, those lore reasons too, circumstances why House hasn't cleared out this area, because he doesn't have enough Securitrons to, with everything that's going on in the world, with the war, with him trying to control the new expanded strip in the second section that has chaos going on in it. He doesn't have the resources, so it's like him helping you out is like you being able to convince him and him realizing the courier is important. And what this does too, by the way, is it makes the courier feel that much more special. Like, this is how valuable the platinum chip should be, and the courier with what he's done could be. That he's willing to give you this mansion. And it's a way of showing the value without breaking the game's economy. Now, the only counter argument you could really say to this is, oh, well, maybe Mr. House didn't want to give you the money in vanilla to, like, which I just thought of this recently. Maybe he didn't want to give you the money in vanilla so that he could control you with money, you know? And while, like, sure, maybe that could be like a, you know, a headcanon thing, you could have very easily put that conversation, like, this wasn't something they thought of. You could have very easily put in the conversation, like, this chip should be worth like 1 million caps. And then, like, have something where, like, Mr. House, like, bluffs or whatever, or somehow acknowledges that, like, hey, I'm not giving you this money because I don't know how to word it indirectly. But basically, that could have been acknowledged, but it wasn't. So, yeah, that's a really big unimmersive thing that I thought of in this mod and fixed. And when I say there are so many things like that that I have thought of, there's so many. There's just too many things. There's way too many things. And you'd have to read the design document to see. And honestly, you'd probably like to pick up all the nuances of what I've done. It's 200 pages. Imagine reading the vanilla Fallout New Vegas design document. You wouldn't just comprehend all of it in one read. So keep that in mind when you're reading through it. Like, this is layered writing. It's very layered. So sometimes things aren't as they seem. Okay. So now that we've done that, oh, let's go over to these other sections over here. We're gonna walk through here. So back to walking through here. Also, another thing is I really like to make the player character feel small. I like to make the character feel small. So I'm not sure. Trying to think of what else I was gonna say. Come on, not that glitching again. It's TCL through here. I really like this little path that I created here. It was all retro-y. So good news. So when it comes to in-game, I think we're getting to the last little bit that I'm going to show off here. Also, too, you can see why I said that this is over 30 times larger. It's actually more near 50 times larger. Like when you think of the actual explorable area that there's going to be. Yeah. So this is going to be a hospital. It's based off of the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida, because I wanted a location that felt more like a tertiary, I'm saying it wrong, like a facility where like they like research, because the facility in Vegas in real life isn't that, and it doesn't look that good, and it doesn't feel very retro. And so I like how the Mayo Clinic feels, so this is kind of based off of the Mayo Clinic in Florida, but yeah. And then there's some shops over here. Oh, massive shop. Which, obviously this is very rough here. And that's not supposed to be there. I don't know what that's doing there. So this is going to be one of the mega tunnels in directly to this area. Oh, also I'm going to show the lore right quick. This is going to be really cool lore, and this is in the design document. So now Vegas has a hospital, and it's actually functioning. So the line about Mr. House saying things going the way of the dodo bird kind of inspired me for Vegas to have one hospital. And this is going to make the world feel like a part of Vegas is outside of Vegas itself. And what I mean by that is now there's a radio signal for like an absurd amount of caps. Like, I don't know the amount, but let's say 4,000. That you can radio in a medical emergency. And they can come and pick you up and take you to the hospital. And also, Mr. House has a vertebrate fleet now, which this is all balanced. Trust me, if you read the design document, it's very balanced. But yeah. So, and there's even gonna be, like in my long-term plans, you're gonna get to go to various areas across the wasteland. Like not even just in Nevada. Like there's going to be, and also that's another thing too. This is one of the few hospitals that like is functioning at this capacity. And so you're going to have people from all across the wasteland who come here. And what I want here is like the opportunities for this to spur for other modders. Like this, and just the vertebrate fleet in general, is like excuses to end up in certain areas. Like for example, you can make like little battle areas of like certain cities that are like blocked off, where it's like, oh, we got to get this person from this area that's super dangerous. And there's two different squads. There's the safe squad, which like picks up people that isn't dangerous, and then there's the heavy squad for like battle zones or like radiated areas where they come and save people. But obviously it's capitalism. It's not being a good person. It's making a lot of money, and they're one of the few places in the wasteland that are capable of doing this. And the whole vibe of this is like, Vegas is this last, what you're thinking now, Vegas is massive. How does the NCR, well, the NCR is already massive canonically, but they're going to be shown better what they can do. Caesar's Legion, trust me, they feel different now too. They are not like what they are in vanilla, but that's a story for another time. But anyways, so yeah, there's going to be a lot to that. So now we're getting into the biggest mass housing district here, which that is not supposed to be that tall. It's, anyways. So this is going to be so big. So how tall this is. Now, mind you, Mr. House did this not for looks. This area is pure utility, housing tens of, honestly, hundreds of thousands of people in this area. Maybe that's hyperbolic. I don't know the exact number, but tens of thousands at the very least, probably hundreds though. So these garages, this is for utilitarian purposes, to save space. So this is going to be like a system here, a retro future system, where there's like these things, which this over here, but like these lift systems that pull your car out of the garage and then put it here. And then you also have the monorail system. And then you have the housing units, which there's just tons of housing units in this area. And then, you know, because superior urban planning, right? There's also going to be like a bunch of greenery in here, and like playgrounds and stuff for children, and like community centers and stuff on the ground. But then these like skyscraper things that like hold either their vehicles, or they're also going to be storage units too, some of them. But it's hard to really show you this until I show you in the GEC, but when I say there are a ton of buildings, there are a ton of buildings. And then also this segues kind of into, which this is in the second section of the strip, house made a business district, which does exist in the real Vegas. I think it's called the Hughes Center. Like Howard Hughes, but this is going to be a ton of like, this is not based off of real life, this is based off of House preparing. He created just like a business district, like a massive business district. So this is like a massive business district that House had created, and you're going to get to explore through here, and there's going to be like a lot of lore to it. And something that I want to say too is there's some people that want to say that the way I'm designing this is like unrealistic, which spectacle is the point. But all I want to say to you is look at China. Seriously, look at real world China if you think that this couldn't happen. Now, the reason it exists in this game is because Mr. House was doomsday prepping this place. But, anyways, I didn't articulate that very well because I was trying not to get too political about things. But I will have separate, because how I'm doing things is I am going to have a couple videos where I do talk about things like that, but I'm going to keep those isolated to certain videos, right? Like, for example, like I said, I'm going to have videos addressing male supremacists, because, yeah, Fallout does have a portion of... Fallout has a very diverse fan base. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Like, we have far left, and then we have the far right. And it's an extreme case. Like obviously every game is like that, but one little thing that I will say on this topic here is actually I think I might have forgot it. What was I gonna say? Oh, it's actually about the far left, which I will say obviously I lean left. The far left trying to make this game about communism. It was never directly about communism. I don't think Tim Kaine had Marxist philosophy in mind when he made this game. Like, don't get me wrong, he's looking at symptoms of a capitalistic system and putting them in the game and being like, this is a bad thing, let's make fun of it. But he wasn't consciously making this game communism or anything like that. And, which by the way, I'm not either. I am making a faction that is, I am accentuating the followers of Apocalypse. They're going to be socialist reformers. And then there is a faction that isn't even really, you only get to meet them during the events of Fallout New Vegas. My long-term goal would be to make a Fallout New Vegas 2, where this faction will exist, and they are a faction called the Collective. And I haven't shared too much of their writing yet, but they're communist representation in the game, which I have added a lot of. All the factions actually add like different ideologies into the game. Like Caesar's Legion is totalitarianism with some paganism that's like more symbolic, but I have added like an actual theocratic monarchy into the world. So yeah, a lot of different factions, but I have added that communist representation so that kind of like we have every kind of viewpoint. And then obviously the socialist reformists, which are not the same thing as communists. But yeah, I will say with the left and wanting to make this game communism, it's not. But you got to understand though is some people, they have issues with capitalism, but they can't really point out from like a political framework their issues, right? So like, whilst I would say Tim Kaine made a critique of capitalism, like without directly realizing that's what he was doing, it was not consciously about that. And so when you do that, you're like making Fallout not what it was. But I will say this though, about the whole nihilistic war never changes. That works until you want to end the series. And you want to end the series on something that doesn't get rid of the idea that humans have bad proclivities, but I don't want to get too into this, but I do have a plan for Fallout New Vegas 2. But you gotta understand, it's insane to even share it right now because that would be very, very far out there. But just know I'm setting things up to where there could be a Fallout New Vegas 2. And I will be sharing the writing for a Fallout New Vegas 2 in the design document. I will be sharing it. But it'll be a little bit before I share that, and there was absolutely no promise that would ever happen, but I would love for it to happen, and I'm going to write about it. It's going to be very interesting. But anyways, let's show this in the GEC now. Actually, you know what I'm going to do first? I'm going to show you, I'm going to explain, because my brain is just working so good right now. I'm going to explain what I've done in the parent world space. Okay. So I'm going to show you the parent world space because a really intuitive question that some people ask is, how is this going to fit in the parent world space? Which I kind of alluded to it, but I'm going to show you now. So obviously with the smog, the reason I have done the smog is it's based off of it's based off of a, okay, let's hope this doesn't crash. It's based off of a mechanical necessity. Okay, with NVR, if I go over there, I'm probably gonna crash, but okay, anyways, so how things are going to work. So the smog was for a very particular reason. I did not, so I created these walls, and the reason why is, this is conjuration similar to Fallout 3's DC location. So what I have here is, from a distance, okay, I'm going to quick save when I get over there this time. Oh, also, I plan on getting rid of the invisible walls. I don't know how I'm thinking of doing that yet, but I know they have death claws here, which you could never even access this area in vanilla, so I don't know why they did that, but there's invisible walls here. So I think what I'm gonna do is, like, I don't know, maybe have some kind of like a radiation or something there, like some explanation, but I kind of want to try to get rid of the invisible walls. That's just a side note, but okay, that's a quick save here. I'm happy I quick saved. I turned off NVR, so now we're gonna be fine. Okay, so explanation here. Okay, I need to, that's annoying. I don't want to hear those people fighting. So how things work here. So similar to Fallout 3's DC, I've done a conjuration trick. So from the distance, right, when you're all the way over here, or like a ways away, maybe you can kind of see over the walls, or like if you're on a mountaintop. That's annoying, but whatever. If you're on a mountaintop, you can see over here. But when you're close up, you really can't. So the illusion that I'm creating here is, oh my gosh. So the illusion that I'm creating here is that the interior is bigger than it actually is. Because when you're close up, you have to walk all the way around, and you have to go through, like, which does lore reasons why this is expanded, because a part of House is industrial expansion, but I'm not going to get into that. Also, this here, that has some cool lore, but not going to get into that. You can watch my first video if you want to hear about that. But anyway, so you have industrial massing, which it's not loading in the distance, but now it's like built up all around here. And so what that does is that makes it to where when you're traveling on the ground, Vegas feels massive. Like you're having this optical illusion that when you go on the inside, it isn't like, oh my gosh, it's so much bigger on the inside than the outside. You won't notice that because you have to travel all throughout the alleys here and stuff, and you also have to go through a loading door. It's not just going to be open. And so what it's doing is it's giving that illusion. Okay, so now we have the smog here, right? So you're going to have the purple cloud here, and the only thing that's going to be sticking out is the Lucky 38, which is going to be super atmospheric and cool. And what that does is I don't have to remodel the entire strip in this area, which would kind of break the illusion of scale, because even if I was to make the full strip, it would basically be like the entire valley length, which isn't realistic. So when you have this, where you're just going to have the Lucky 38 in the middle and a bunch of like purple cloud, it's just going to be believable. And again, you're only going to get to see that from like select angles, like when you're on Black Mountain or something, or when you're like over here on this mountain. So like most of the time it's just going to feel believable, right? And here's the thing. Is it 100% like a complete perfect illusion? No. Was Fallout 3 a complete perfect illusion? No. This is quite literally the best thing that you could possibly come up with outside of actually just recreating the entire world. That's the only thing you can do. And so that's what we're doing. And as you can see, there's a lot of people, right, like the dipshit, which he was a dipshit, I'm not even gonna be nice to him, he was a dipshit, who was telling me like I'm doing too much to the Fallout universe. No, I'm not. And this guy admitted that he skimmed through my, at the time it was 140 pages, but it was still very well written document. But yeah, there's a purpose behind this. Okay, now this here is a part of his industrial expansion. House made the monorail system go across like everywhere. So like it's here and it goes across the entire map. And the reason I did this is, again, to kind of distract you from the walls. Also, I'm going to get rid of this because this doesn't look very good. I'm getting rid of that. But yeah, so a lot of different things. And then even like roads, right? Because like this is retro future, so like travel should be better, which this is someone else's mod. But anyways, yeah, so the roads are expanded to in a way that would make sense in like a retro future setting where they care about travel better. Oh, this was during the keynotes. I made this like an actual truck stop now, which this was very hard to do, to make it like feel like it fit, like it belongs there, because how teeny this area was before, making it feel real, like real size, this took effort. This took like using my brain for sure. Okay, anyway, so these roads, by the way, too, you are going to be able to drive on them to get to the strip, but there's going to be like security stuff, which I haven't quite designed this yet, but you'll see. Like there's going to be tunnels and stuff. Like, yeah, it's a lot to explain, but anyways. So like this even here is like a bus station for like when people come through, and it like takes you. These are 2 mega tunnels that lead to there. Oh, this is the community for the sponsored Genius Children. And again, I put this here as a distraction, and so I had to kind of change the mountains, but it's all a part of distracting you around so you don't feel like the inside is bigger than the outside, which that obviously is not going to be there. It's going to be kind of more further down. But yeah, so when you're walking around, it's gonna feel legit. It's hard to explain completely, but yeah. And then these things here, they're gonna be trash piles, just massive trash heaps that they just kind of throw out here, because yeah. And then this is where there's 2 airports now. Camp McCarran, and then there's an airport inside the strip that is a full-sized airport. So this is like the smaller little airport. And then Freeside is obviously like, or Fiend territory is way developed. I may make the buildings a little shorter though, but it's more developed now. And this was like a freight center. Alright, so now I'm gonna show you things in the GEC. That's what I was saying about the whole basically illusion of scale, just to summarize everything, is that you build high walls or high buildings that you can't see past, and you make a bunch of like mass around it that people have to navigate through, and that kind of distracts you from the inside being smaller. And then with the smog covering the valley, that makes it to where I don't have to remodel the entire valley. So basically, that's the best that you can do in the situation we're given. So yeah, okay. So now I'm gonna show you some areas in the strip here, how they look in here, just so you can kind of have a better idea of things. But obviously the scale, it's hard to tell the scale, right? Because like, look at how small a human is, right? But see some of the things that I want to show you. So let's go to the mass housing district. Okay. So as you can see here, which again, these are going to also be storage units too. But as you can see, there's just a ton of mass housing. And the whole feeling behind this is like House created a city-state, a place that's going to be able to reignite the high-tech centers, a place that he prepared for 50 years. Over here, there's also a big factory, and this factory is based off of the Boeing factory. So this is going to be where the high-tech center is recreated. Or this is the high-tech center that he spoke of. Okay, let's go to the business center. So the business center is obviously very rough right now, but it's more so just putting the concept out there so people can see it. I just want it to feel like an ocean of buildings and parking lots. Oh, and then there's this golf place close by, which you just have to use your imagination. This is supposed to be that golf center, but I may just make it like a really nice park because it may not fit the size of like what a golf center needs to be. Also, that's hard to even understand. But anyways. Oh, also, I remember the name of this now. It's the Convection Center, which is a place in real life. A convention, I mean. Okay. Alrighty, let me see here. Okay, so this is the part that I really wanted to show everyone. So, this is the whole racetrack thing, and every once in a while there's going to be like a building like this that's like a stand or whatever for like people, and you have the little bleachers, and it's cool. It's all retro, right? It's in the sky, you know? How there's going to be that, and that's going to go across and loop all around and stuff in this second section of the strip. And then obviously some of these things are just there. They're not actually going to be there, but as you can see, right, there's those platforms, right? So like the bottom part and then on the platform and stuff, and there's going to be escalators to go up, right? Like you see here, there's going to be escalators. And then also too, there's going to be walkways that kind of go across one side to the other. So there's going to be a ton of verticality is what I'm saying. And then you even have the parking spots, right? And it's retro future, so they have their space superior urban planning. So like there's these story parking lots instead of parking spaces so that they have more room for shops. So there's going to be tons of shops, and the GEC just crashed. Okay, so we're back. Let's get back to the Eiffel Tower. Yeah, so forgot exactly what I was saying, but superior urban planning. This is the area that I really want to show off too. So So here is, oh, that's an old version. A smaller version. Here's Paradise Falls Mall. These are just placeholders. Because it's like, it's a casino mall. And this mall is actually going to be operational too. And people take the monorail to it. And it's going to be ran by contractors. So like individual shop people. And I like this idea because modders can add whatever. There's going to be so many different shops, right? And they'll just all be empty. And then when a modder wants to add whatever, they have their little plugin and add their thing. And the whole idea behind it is like, oh, a new shop came into town or whatever, you know? Because House is actively expanding. And with his vertibird fleet, by the way, it's very expensive. But I said this in one of the other videos, but I'll say it again. Mr. House did a massive campaign when he first woke up, and he sent like vertibirds out all across the wastes. And this was after the stuff went down with the NCR and stuff. So, and basically like advertised the strip and gave really cheap flights at first just to get the economy booming. So that was a thing. So now like a lot of people know about the strip in the wastes, but it's still like a mythical thing because it's like, it's just insane for people, you know? But yeah, so a lot of lore, a lot of lore, a lot of lore. Okay. This building is gonna have like a pool area and stuff here. It's based off of a real building. Obviously you see the MGM here. The MGM. It's not all gonna load in at once. But oh, so that museum that Mr. House made, it's called Tomorrow's Promise. Oh, I remember the name of this one. Not its original name. I forgot its original name. But I do remember the name that I named it, which it's called, its name is Antiquity. So Antiquity, you know, old times, so like, and that's why it's Greek. It's going to be Greek theme. And then you have the future, Tomorrow's Promise. So yeah, and this is completely from investors from Vegas. Just a ton of investors. Well, not a ton, but like for wasteland standards, a ton live here. Most of this is going to be empty, but the whole thing is it's going to be Greek, and the servants are going to be dressed like Greek people. And yeah, it's the only like new. It's not even a faction because they're not factions. It's just these rich people pay for their own servants that they bring, and those servants dress like they're not a faction. And this is important. This is important because I'm keeping the balance of the vanilla circumstances. There's a lot to think about when you do a mod like this, and I promise you, this is why I'm saying I have a skill with this, with the creative direction and stuff, because I'm able to think of all these things and see the big vision. And that's why the way things are being ran, that's why I spent over 2 years, like 2.5, probably pushing 3 years now. I have been doing this in silence so that when I reveal it, there isn't like a, yeah, I'll join the team, but like I have to have this much, you know, creative say. Like, no, I needed to flesh this out to where like it's really very obvious what I'm trying to do. And so I've done that. And where a lot of the creative freedom is going to come from is going to be like individual quests or like writing characters and stuff. And don't get me wrong, there's still going to be an outline there. And when it comes to the like environment of how we're going to do things, it's not going to be that harsh. And we're going to be releasing updates every once in a while. Like, it's not going to be one of those projects that's like super serious and has like a date and a deadline and like crunches. That's not what we're doing. We're going to release stuff as time goes on. It's going to be very fun. But when it comes to the creative side of things, and everyone's going to know this before they go in it, it's going to be brutal. And what I mean by brutal is this version of the strip is anywhere from the 3rd or 6th. I forget because my medical condition. At minimum 3. At minimum 3 times I created the strip and then completely scrapped it. a minimum of 3 times. Like at the very least, it was 3 times that I scrapped it. So yeah, the way this project will work, there will just straight up be something that may just get completely took out, because in the end of the day, what we really care about is the end product. That's, you know, how it's going to come out. So if that means like you spent over 100 hours on something and it just gets cut, like, it's a brutal, but that's how it's going to be. And the cool thing, right, is with how the mod permissions are going to be, it's going to be pretty easy to just add it back in if you want to. But yeah, so this is just important because those other mod projects that didn't do this, and they didn't end up very good. So I spent all this time here, and I'm setting things up this way for a very peculiar reason. So yeah, but these here are like sports facilities, because that's the college. And then the last mass housing thing is this, which is like, obviously this is a placeholder, but this is a college building. And again, placeholder. Most of this stuff is placeholders. We're going to have custom assets, but right now what matters most, like I said in the keynotes, is the outline. The outline is what matters the absolute most. So that's why the assets are the way they are. Also, a little cool little side note. This is going to have the little MGM lion statue here. But yeah, and obviously with the scale of the strip, if an individual modder wants to make the new coolest, most badass faction ever, that like has this building and is super cool and like doesn't really fit in the circumstances of the world, that's one thing. I'm all for that. I love mods like that. They're fun to play through. But when it comes to this project, no. When it comes to this project, we are making this shit logistically make sense according to the circumstances of vanilla. That is what we're going to do. So, yeah, that's how it's going to be. We're respecting the source material, but making it better. Now, that doesn't mean, which I've already said this in other places, that doesn't mean that what I'm doing here is like, what is exactly what the original creators would have created? That's not what I'm doing. Like, I need to explain something to, because again, the guy who I said was a dipshit, which by the way, there's the comments that I brought up that I said they weren't dipshits, and then there's the dipshit comment. What you got to understand is, so number one is I'm taking it in a direction that could happen in accordance to what is there. And then secondly, you got to think, I've spent thousands of hours doing this. Thousands of hours. Well over 2,000. I stopped counting after 2,000. We're probably at 3,000 now. If you don't think I'm going to do what I want to do, which what I want to do already is a very strict program. If you think that I'm going to just completely be like, I can't do this because the creators, like for example with Caesar's Legion, they can't have animals in, well, they already do with the dogs. Okay. So Caesar's Legion uses cazadors to counter snipers. And I'm debating on the conflict that he alluded to with the Midwest Brotherhood. I'm debating on that conflict, the conflict ending. I wish, by the way, I fleshed out that lore. You can see that in the design document. It's in the Midwest Order section. But anyway, so my idea is the Beast Lords from Fallout Tactics. Caesar has them in his forces now. And so they can control animals, and like the beast lords are guarded in like these like metal towers on wheels that like keeps them protected so that like they can control the animals from their like ivory towers. And this is like a way of balancing them with like the NCR. Anyways, I have a lot of different stuff. But why I'm bringing that up is there's going to be people who say, well, that the Legion, like, you know, the Beast Lords or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, buddy, I'm going to do cool stuff like that. Just like they did cool stuff in Old World Blues. I'm not going to be just like completely like, oh my gosh, I have to add romance in with Mr. House because that's what they were going to do. No, you got to understand that they could have done a ton of different stuff. And it's possible that maybe they would have done something like what I'm doing. You don't actually know what they were going to do. But I'm not going to just only be like, oh, so here's the cut content and I'm only going to do something like the cut content. No, I'm going to make the Gamora, the Omertas have woman, and they're gonna be like this. Like, I'm gonna do what I essentially want to do, because what I want to do is well thought out. And it shows a lack of creativity and ingenuity to just be like, well, I'm only gonna do what that was meant to be. What that shows me is you're good at keeping track of things, but you don't actually understand creative design. You don't actually have a vision for this, which that's okay. Most people don't, but I wouldn't even say most people don't, but most people don't to an extent to do a project like this. But what I take issue with is when someone doesn't have that self-awareness and they were like basically kind of try to tell me that I'm dumb. And it's just like, here's the thing, you might not like this particular thing, but I don't like particular things in base Fallout New Vegas. I don't like that Caesar's Legion is in football pads. That's stupid. Some people like it. Is it cool, like, in a spectacle sense? Sure. But I've always found that really stupid. Some people don't. It's going to be the same thing with a mod. It's going to be the exact same thing with a mod. But it's going to be accentuated because it doesn't have the social proof of actually being from the game. And that's fine. And in the end of the day, this is a mod, and I purposely made it super modular to where it will be very easy to edit most things out. Which I talk about that in the design document a lot. I'm not going to talk about it here too much. But essentially, let's end this video. Oh wait, no, this is the end of the video. Let's end this section, the showcase. Let's end it at the strip section here. So, what I want to say here. Oh, which also, I don't think I showed this. The Lucky 38 has like actual buildings like this now, like it does in real life. So we have now reached the ending of the video. There's going to be an end card at the last couple seconds, and that will actually take you to a video where I have an AI reading over my Vegas section of the design document. This is to give you the full overview of really everything that's happening regarding the strip. Now, that design document is actually in the description linked. So if you want to give it a read before that video comes out, you can go ahead and do that. If you made it this far, be sure to leave a little cowboy smiley face emoji, especially for a video like this that was like over 3 hours. I'm low-key interested to know who made it this far. This video took a ton of effort to create. Like, it being 3 hours and watching that, imagine how long that is editing it. Like, this took me well over a month. And that's not even to mention the nature of a project like this, how much this is. And up to this point, it has been solo because I really wanted to define this, what I had inside of my mind, basically. So yeah, I will be continuing to work on this project, and I guess I'm just gonna end it there. I don't really know how I'm gonna end this exactly, so I hope y'all have a good one, and I appreciate all the support.